Okay.
Blog Talk Radio.
Let's go.
Let's go. It's time to attack. We the smartest, fastest, and most vicious. We gonna put them in their place. You coming on out? We're going to game.
Andy's gonna fire deep. Puts it there inside the 10. Throws to Superman. Good route by Edelman. Now they come on a reverse to the near side on a quick run.
What's up, NFL fans out there, and welcome to another edition of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue, the show where we talk nothing but NFL football. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Devin McMillan. I'm here with my partner. We got Fred Purdue in the building. Fred, what's up?
Man, NFL football is chugging along. We're in, week 6 now? It comes so quickly.
Yeah.
Pause. Never mind. I'm leaving. That was a bad choice.
No doubt. But I get where you're going, man. The season is going by so fast. Like, we wait damn near all year for this and college football to get started. And then when it's finally here, you know what I'm saying? Like, half the damn season will be gone in 2 weeks. But it's all good because while it's here, we're going to talk about it. And we got some things to talk about today. So everybody sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, because Cover 2 is on. We're going to start with our first segment, Quick Slants. Quick Slants, we can't start this off without talking about Drew Brees making history. He is now the all-time leading passer as far as yards are concerned in NFL history. Frank, a lot of people, when we start having the GOAT conversations, and, you know, these days, I think we both kind of understand that GOAT conversations, it's really more so of what Jimmy, shout out to Jimmy from War Room Sports, it's more so of what he wrote in his book. It's not really GOAT. Like, GOAT conversations these days, people kind of see as a group. Jimmy has another name for it, and it's the Table of Gods, because he believes there is no greatest of all time in each sport. But he said there is a select few people who sits at that table of gods. We don't mention Drew Brees enough, I don't think, in these conversations because, you know, you have what we think are the big dogs, especially from his generation, but he's in the background every year just putting up yards, putting up touchdowns, putting up statistics, and then he has that one piece of hardware to kind of bring it all together. Should we be bringing up his name? Does he sit at that table? Could we say Drew Brees is top 10 of all time at this point?
That was tough because, quite honestly, I was having this conversation and I said, man, where does Drew Brees really fit in this whole quarterback thing? Because Drew Brees came around, he's seen a little bit of both eras. He saw I can hit you as hard as I can. I can throw quarterbacks around. We can touch DB. We can touch receivers. Running backs are going to be the focus of the offense. And he played with a good one. So in LaDainian Tomlinson before the injury, but then he saw the other side of things where there's two different eras. I call it real football and then fantasy football. We're in the fantasy football era where everything's geared towards the offense and quarterbacks and running backs and receivers, and defense is just an afterthought. And you're going to put up silly, ridiculous numbers. It was a time where 4,000 yards was unheard of. 3,000 yards was unheard of.
Right.
Now we're putting up 4,000, 5,000 on a consistent basis.
The average quarterbacks are putting up 4,000.
Exactly. It used to be a feat to get to 4,000. Now, if you don't have 4,000, we're talking about you as like you're a bum. You're a bum.
Let's put this into perspective. All the fans out there know, you know, I root for the Philadelphia Eagles, always have. We have a quarterback who many believe is the franchise greatest quarterback ever in Donovan McNabb, and he's never thrown for 4,000 yards in the season. And Andy Reid was a pass-happy coach. Like, before this era of pass happiness came about, they labeled Andy Reid pass happy, and McNabb has never thrown for 4,000 yards. The closest he's gotten was like right around 3,900, and that was the Super Bowl season when he had T.O. So that puts a lot of this into perspective. Like, he's never done it.
I think as well, Drew Brees is a part of this group of quarterbacks, and I think we're seeing no disrespect to one of my favorites in Peyton Manning or Dan Marino, John Elway, but we're in an era of throwing the football where quarterbacks are taking care of their bodies better. Tom Brady, obviously Drew Brees, they're in their late 30s and into their 40s, and they're playing like they're in their early 30s, and the arm strength's still there. The accuracy's still there. They're not getting hit. I mean, Tom Brady, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but Tom Brady is literally, I think he can play another 5 years. I can realistically see it, Drew Brees as well, because they don't get hit. And
right.
Who would have ever thought, and as I'm looking down this list of top 5 guys, Drew Brees obviously number 1, Peyton Manning number 2, Brett Favre number 3, Tom Brady's number 4, and he's about 4,000 yards short, but he'll pass these guys in about maybe another season or so. We know he's coming back barring injury. And then you have Eli Manning, who's at about 53,000, so he'll probably never touch that because he's already in his mid to late 30s. And then you have a guy like a Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers. These guys, you would have never thought in a million years that these 3 guys who came in at the same time would even have a chance of sniffing it. And then you got a guy like Matt Ryan who sits at 15, and he's been in the league 10 years or so at 43,000. It's realistic that he could at least crack the top 10.
Yeah, and then the crazy part is back when Dan Marino held all these records and, you know, he was throwing it silly in an era where teams weren't doing that, like you looked at things like, man, nobody's ever going to break these records. Now, like you said, Dan Marino is about to be an afterthought on this list at some point. They might push him out of the top 10 at some point, and there's going to be several people in front of him where you're going to think like, okay, this dude is on top of him on this list, but that dude couldn't hold Dan Marino's jockstrap. So yeah, it's just a totally new era. Now I'm not giving that credit to Drew Brees because Drew Brees, like you said, he's in that Brady, Manning, McNabb. He's in that era of the people who kind of bridged one generation to the next. Drew Brees came into the league with much of the criticism that a Russell Wilson came into the league with. He was a great quarterback at Purdue. He comes into the league. I don't know if he's going to be successful. He's too small. He's only about 6 feet. Arm is maybe not strong enough. And then after the injury, you know, they definitely thought his arm wasn't strong enough. He should be a Miami Dolphin right now. But they, you know, did what they did, and Drew Brees ends up in New Orleans, and it's like ever since, you know, it's been history since that moment. So I really don't have a definitive answer for my own question, but I really think we need to start taking Drew Brees more seriously when we do have these conversations about greatest quarterbacks of all time, you know, table of gods, things like that. Because one thing I think he did, and a lot of people don't notice because you just got used to the fact that a Drew Brees offense is going to be a high-powered offense. But you look at some of the guys that he did this with, you have to give him some credit for making guys look a little bit better. Like the greatest receiver he's probably ever played with, just off the top of my head, probably Marcus Colston. This dude's a 7th-round pick from Hofstra. like, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, hard work on his part got him to where he was and got him to what he, you know, ultimately became in the NFL. But it's like playing with Drew didn't hurt. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of dudes out here have these A1 weapons, and Drew's really never had that. I'm thinking like at the running back position either until, you know, Kamara came along.
Reggie Bush.
Right. Like, you know, a lot of people were screaming that Reggie Bush was a bust at that point. You know, he was still somebody you always had to know where he was. I'm telling you what people were screaming. I didn't say I was screaming. I used to be a Reggie Bush apologist. I used to defend Reggie Bush against these people who, you know, sometimes, Fred, people are more quick to call you something like that when that's what they want you to be. So if you come in and you're not the great USC Reggie Bush, and these people are rooting against you from jump, they're going to push you along your quote-unquote bustum and make it worse than it really is. So, I defended Reggie all the time.
And I think there's a perfect marriage here, too, that we always forget about. When we talk about Drew Brees, he's always going to – and there's only two quarters. There's a few over time throughout history that the coach-quarterback connection it's like very synonymous. Without one, you don't have the other. Without Drew Brees, Drew Brees needs Sean Payton. Sean Payton needs Drew Brees. And it's the perfect marriage because you can put pieces around him to fit the offenses. For example, Reggie Bush, meet Alvin Kamara, same guy.
Right.
A little bit bigger, a little bit faster, stronger, but same type of player. Ted Ginn Jr., meet Devery Henderson. Joe Horn, same thing. Or Jimmy Graham, which I think was probably his greatest weapon because Jimmy Graham was just an absolute beast and a game changer. But you've always had guys that fit the offense. And I even say Kenny Stills goes into that conversation too. And when you talk about his best receiver, Marcus Colston had put up big numbers, but that might change because Michael Thomas is really, really good. But Drew Brees had between him and Sean Payton, and now you add in this Taysom Hill kid who can take some snaps off of Drew Brees' career and maybe push him into his early 40s. Drew Brees could probably put this record. I'm willing to say Drew Brees could see close to another 30. That he could potentially, by the time the season's over, he'll probably be at about 75,000, and he'll probably see close to 90,000 yards, and that's absurd.
Yeah,
if he doesn't retire, and if he secures one more ring, he's already in the room. Per se, you know how the Miami Dolphins, they talk about that record. You're on the block. You're on the block. You're turning the corner. You're in the
but the question is,
he's in the room. He's in the room.
At Thanksgiving dinner, but is he at the big table or is he at the kiddie table?
Yeah, if he gets one more ring, he's no longer at the children's table. He's at the big boy table with Montana, Manning, and Brady, and the rest, and some of these others. I mean, I give Dan Marino a seat regardless, because he's the one asterisk, but nonetheless, I mean, he's one of the all-time greats, no matter what.
All right. So shout out to him. It's a great feat, no matter how you slice it. So shout out to Drew Brees, man. Like I said, there was a lot of naysayers when he came into the league, and he seems to be proving everybody wrong year after year. So definitely shout out to Drew Breezy, because he made it look breezy. It was real dramatic the other night. All right. So the Philadelphia Eagles have lost another running back. Jay Ajayi, after this Sunday's game, has been he got an MRI and he has a torn ACL. I didn't even see in the game where he got hurt, So I don't think anybody had a clue that we were even waiting on an MRI from Jay Ajayi. The funny part about this is he had some critical things, coaching and the play calling, after the game and the next day, and then all of a sudden he has a torn ACL. So I'm like, does he really have a torn ACL? And did they send this dude home with pay and told him to be quiet? I don't know. Either way, the Eagles are in the market for a running back. All the trade rumors are starting to ramp up. Even before Jay Ajayi got injured, there was the talk about a possible trade for Le'Veon Bell. The Eagles made it a little more intriguing the other day when they restructured the contract of Fletcher Cox to make more cap space. But that doesn't necessarily mean Le'Veon Bell. They've been linked to Howard from Chicago, and the latest, they've been linked to an old friend, LaShawn Shady McCoy, who never wanted to be in another uniform besides an Eagles uniform anyway, since Buffalo has been thrust probably against their will into a rebuilding phase. There's a lot of pundits out there that thinks the Eagles could easily pry Shady McCoy away from Buffalo while their Super Bowl window is still open and reunite with the running back. What are your thoughts on this? First of all, would it be a good fit? Is Shady McCoy a good fit anywhere? Like, what are your thoughts?
Running backs. You have one on your roster. His name is Corey Clement. You have Donnell Pumphrey. You have Darren.
Well, you have Smallwood.
Yeah, you have Wendell Smallwood as well.
Who's been getting most of the carries since Clement's been a little banged up as well. Exactly.
And see, for me, when I look at you know how I feel about running backs. You don't trade for running backs. You don't trade for anybody unless you are trading for, at this point, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or somebody that is an elite quarterback, an elite pass rusher. You don't trade for anybody because no team is willing to just get rid of an elite player. And running backs you can get them a dime a dozen. Just throwing that out there. You can get a running back a dime a dozen. Look at all of the great running backs you can find in the draft year in, year out. Joe Mixon. Le'Veon Bell's a second-round pick. Yes, you have your Todd Gurley's, but you don't. And then you definitely don't touch a running back that's 30. That just doesn't make sense to me in a situation where you're a pass-happy team as it is. You want to be a little bit more balanced. And I like what Jay Ajayi brought because he's a big person. Jay Ajayi he runs like Todd Gurley should run. He's a big person that runs violently, but it also will destroy his body later on. And at this point, with the back fracture, he had a fracture in his back too, by the way, and that's never good.
Right. He's destroying his body now.
Yeah, he's destroying his body now, and that is why running backs they're it's not that they're devalued, it's just, are you willing to, if you know you're going to destroy something within 5 years, are you willing to pay top dollar for it when you can get the same product from a lesser known brand or company? Are you going to do that? Probably not. You're going to
I kind of think if Carson Wentz isn't coming off an ACL, I don't think they would be pressed to make these moves. I think they're looking for more of a threat in the backfield to keep defenses a little more honest because they have been teeing off on Carson Wentz as of late. And for all the people out there who, are blaming everything on the offensive line, I think you guys need to reevaluate. I think the first game that Carson Wentz has been back where you can put things on, put most of the pressure on the offensive line was this past week against Minnesota. This was the first team who was really getting consistent pressure with just the front four. The games past, there was a lot of blitzing going on, and I put a lot of that on the quarterback because it's Carson Wentz's job to sniff out these looks when he comes to the line of scrimmage. We all know that 5 people can't block 6 and 5 people can't block 7. But every time those guys, had a free rush to the quarterback, everybody kept blaming the offensive line. Well, your quarterback's job is to switch protections when he sees certain looks that could be blitz looks. That's what a lot of people don't understand, Fred. So, people are blitzing and they're, oh man, the offensive line sucks. No, it's physics. 5 people can't block 6. 5 people can't block 7. It's pretty much physics, especially at this level. Maybe if I was 300 pounds and I was playing in middle school and, I was just blocking 2 dudes at a time, yeah. But this is professional football. 5 dudes generally can't block 6 and 7 people. So you have to look at what your quarterback is doing. I've literally seen this season Carson Wentz go up to the line, see an easy blitz look, and just ignore it and just run the play and get sacked or get pressured. And then, all day people talk about the offensive line. Not the case. It was kind of the case against Minnesota. but not the case all the time.
I think one of the things as well, and people forget how a dual threat quarterback like a Carson Wentz, I even go as far back as like a Vince Young, and people, if you don't believe me, go back and watch the tape. Chris Johnson was never the same after Vince Young went a little loopy. But if you can go back as far as that's concerned, dual threat quarterbacks make your running game so much different because now you have to account for the quarterback as a runner, and they become complementary pieces. Carson Wentz is not really looking to run as much anymore, and he doesn't trust. It's not that he doesn't trust his legs. Like any player with an ACL, coming off an ACL, he doesn't trust his own body yet because he doesn't know what his body can handle. NFL is a violent game. And when guys are flying at your legs, the way you can't touch quarterbacks now, if you do hit them, guys are wanting to hit you low. And he's a big dude, so you're not trying to hit him high because he's just going to run through it. And if you hit him low, you might have a chance. But now with the way flags are coming, guys don't want to hit anybody low. They know they'll get a 15-yard flag. So the problem lies is he may not be as athletic as we remember him. I think the line is fine, quite honestly, but you also have to have a good back with good vision. And those guys don't come – those guys, while running backs come a dime a dozen, I think good running backs with good vision are rare finds.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll see, what it looks like. But the Eagles are being aggressive right now and trying to find ways that they can replace Jay Ajayi, because he's not the only person banged up. Clement has been he's been dressed, but he's kind of been inactive the last few weeks. You haven't seen him on the field much at all. Sproles has been banged up since week 1, so they're looking to add somebody, another big name, I guess, to that backfield. Hey, I think Howard would be a good fit if you can get him from the Bears. At this point, the Bears probably see themselves as playoff contenders. So, yeah, they're going to be asking a lot. I think they do believe in Cohen as a replacement, but they're not going to just let Howard go for peanuts. So we'll see what happens there. Speaking of what we were talking about a little bit earlier and how football has changed a lot, Tom Brady said on his morning call, I think he was it was his Monday interview on WEEI. He said that he thinks now in some ways pro football is more glorified college football. I got a quote from him. He said, "I think football now, removing some of the physical elements of the game, it's more of a space game. You see a lot of college plays more in the pro game than what I remember when I started. That's kind of how things have went over the last bunch of years." Do you agree with him?
I do. The NFL is more and more now, it's become a space game. Everything that comes from the NFL. You have the RPOs, the run-pass options. These guys are literally running 2 plays at a time. And for me, when I look at how these players are now being drafted. You look at a guy like a Todd Gurley. 10 years ago, Todd Gurley is the guy that he's a bigger back. He's a big back who they're just going to run between the tackles. But now, when you look at Todd Gurley, he's a finesse back at 230 pounds at 6'1". Guys like Adrian Peterson no longer exist, but guys like Wes Welker, guys like Cole Beasley are stars, and even Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is a Wes Welker clone type, but he's such a weapon now because he moves the chain. The dominant 6'4" fast receiver, those guys are being replaced a bit now. They have their niche, but what you have now is a bunch of water bug receivers, the John Ross types, the Odell Beckham types, who can make plays in space and make a guy miss and take it to the house. And because you can't touch guys anymore, you can't the kill shot guys, those Cam Chancellors, the Sean Taylors. I'll even take it back as far as one of my favorites, and Jack Tatum. or even I know Jimmy, if he's listening, he remembers the Steve Atwater who used to just take your head off. Those guys can't even survive in this league anymore because you have to be able to tackle correctly. You can't just take a guy's head off and be an enforcer. So Tom Brady's completely right, and it's going to get even worse as times go on because now you're integrating dual threat quarterbacks who can run and throw. It used to be you'd have a Michael Vick type who he was just a great athlete. Now you have a Michael Vick type who is like a Lamar Jackson who's a developed passer, and that makes things even scarier.
Yeah, you're definitely introducing more of those guys when back in the day, like you said, you thought it was that was a rarity. That was a niche, you know what I'm saying? Now that's almost a prerequisite, to play quarterback in the NFL to get that, to get drafted these days early. You got a lot of spread offenses going on, that's straight out of college. And like you mentioned already, the RPOs and the pistol formations and everything, the read option. But the main part is look where they're going these days. Look where they're going for head coaches. So that tells you everything you need to know right there. They're reaching down into the college ranks and giving these guys a shot, and the game is changing for us. So I agree with Tom Brady as well. It's easy to see. It's really nothing complicated about it. All right, so that's our quick slant segment. Now we're going to go deep for a couple of minutes, and this was what we're going to talk about here is Odell Beckham's interview from this Sunday morning on ESPN with Josina Anderson, right? Am I saying her name right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Josina Anderson. And for some reason, Lil Wayne was sitting in on this interview as if he was,
like he's the agent.
Odell Beckham's
the handler,
hand holder. Like I never understood his point because he didn't really say anything. He just grunted and shook his head in agreement with whatever Odell Beckham said. And this may not have anything to do with the conversation, but I just want everybody to know that Odell Beckham does have a tattoo of Lil Wayne on his thigh. Pause that. So
I didn't notice that. I did not notice that.
So it was just a weird phenomenon to see Wayne sitting in this interview with him. And you're getting interviewed. You're basically calling your team out, throwing people under the bus, but you couldn't come in here and do it by yourself. You needed dude to sit here and grunt and co-sign everything you said. Anyway, it did get into kind of a critical session about the New York Giants, the direction that they're going in offensively. Eli Manning, he didn't want to just all out say anything negative about Eli Manning, but his silence and the way that he was trying to look to, for the best words that he could possibly say, you kind of understood where he was going with that. When she asked him if there was a quarterback problem in New York, he didn't say no. He didn't say yes, but he did say, well, first thing, Eli is not going to run. He's not going to make any plays outside of the pocket. So he, just like we just talked about how the game is transitioning, right off the bat, these receivers are looking for guys who are going to extend plays, run around, give him a chance to do his thing. He also talked about how he'd rather make more plays going over the top of someone rather than catching the ball in space and having to run and make moves himself. What were your thoughts on this interview? Like, did you think it was necessary? Do you think he got the side eye when he walked back into the locker room after this? Like, what was the point, and was it effective?
If I was one of Odell Beckham's teammates, specifically one Elijah Manning, he would have to catch me in the parking lot and show me a fade because you're not going to call me out. Yeah, you're not going to call me out. And then, Eli's always been an up and down quarterback, but the one thing he has been, when the big moment comes up, and trust me, I know, when the big moment happens, he finds ways to pull something out of his you-know-what and make plays. And he's targeted Odell more than anybody else on that team. And regardless if he was up or down, Odell was getting passes his way. Odell Beckham Jr. wants to play football 50 yards at a time. And football is not played that way anymore. The days of run the ball 4 or 5 times in a row and then deep play action shots are over. Those days are dead and gone, okay? The game is now short dink and dunk passes down the field. We're beating you 3, 4, maybe 7 yards at a time, and you make that one guy miss, and you're taking it to the house. The days of averaging 20 plus yards a catch are over. And if Odell Beckham Jr. wanted to play he would be great for the Al Davis Raiders. But he's not great for today's football if it is about him. This is not a me game. It's the ultimate team sport, and that's not a cliche. Every position needs somebody's help, and he plays the most dependent position in the league. I mean, you might want to be nice to Elijah and his 2 Super Bowl rings. You might want to be nice to him. And my final point with this, outside of also, you don't throw your team under the bus and then turn around and say it helped motivate them. It will never help motivate anybody. The only motivation they have right now is to take you into the locker room, dump you in a trash can, throw ice on top of you, and roll you down a hill. That's the only thing I would be motivated to do at that point if I was one of his teammates.
Yeah, why can't you motivate them face to face? You know what I'm saying? He claimed that he's working on being a leader on this team, but a leader doesn't run out to the media and throw his team under the bus. All you really did was cause a distraction because on game day, your coach, prior to and after the game, was answering questions about you and your interview, not about you and your play, which was much improved from the weeks prior. So it's kind of showing you what it did. It made a distraction. And I think it was a little bit selfish on his part to do that. But, hey, we'll see. We'll see if the locker room comes together or if, we hear reports about Odell Beckham being jumped in the locker room. If we do, we would understand. All right.
Side note on this, according to Sports Illustrated, Josina Anderson of ESPN, who seems to she says she has and I put this in air quotes, a good rapport with rappers as well as athletes. She found out that Lil Wayne would be in town promoting his new album, which quite honestly, don't go get that. It was awful. I've heard better from him. Those two were being in town at the same time, so she actually asked him to come to do a joint interview. So it wasn't by chance.
All right, well, they need to show us more because in the clip of the interview I saw, Lil Wayne didn't say a damn thing, so that wasn't a joint interview. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure, ESPN, they roll out clips at a time, so maybe we'll find out why Lil Wayne was there. I still think it's awkward. You know what I'm saying? If you want to interview Lil Wayne, interview Lil Wayne. But why do you have to sit in on this guy's interview? Anyway.
What's awkward is another man being tattooed on your thigh. That's
right, yeah.
That's awkward. What's awkward.
So that's us. That's our Going Deep segment. And, as usual, we scored. That's 6. Get the kicker out there. Don't blow it, kicker. Get this extra point. We're going to end this on our Pick 6 segment. And we're going to pick 6 of the games of the week. And we're going to start, speaking of the Giants, we're going to start on the Thursday Nighter because we're actually recording our show on time this week. And we can talk about the Thursday Nighter before it happens rather than talk about it after it happens. You have the Philadelphia Eagles going to see the New York Giants. This is a division rivalry game. These teams pretty much need a win. There's a lot of people out there probably over-exaggerating it as a must-win. Have you taken a look at the records of the teams of the NFC East? yet, because if you have, then you would know this isn't a must-win for anybody. But it would be really good if we did win and get back on track. For one, the Eagles, they can get back to 500 with this, and the Giants can just totally get off the schneid. They're closer to falling all the way behind than anyone else in the division. So, of course, they need it. But I still don't even look at it as a must-win, because that division at this point could probably be won with 9 games. So what are your thoughts on this Thursday night contest that the Eagles might enter with a running back that they're not comfortable with? I don't know why, because in my opinion, Smallwood was probably playing a little better than Ajayi anyway. But I think, like I said to you earlier, Fred, I think it's all about the threat level with Carson Wentz not being, or at least them not wanting him to be as mobile as he was before. I think they just need somebody in there who the defense would respect a little more. So what do you see out of this game? Because the Giants scored a lot of points the other day, even though they did lose. That could be problematic for the Eagles because they haven't scored a ton this season.
I do. I think there are a lot of points going to be scored because this secondary is giving up almost 300 yards through the air a game. And what do the Giants do really well? Well, they throw the ball really well.
Right.
The Giants aren't going to run the ball on anyone.
They're bending like cheap plastic, Fred, but they're not really breaking. Because even against Minnesota, with the yardage and the back-breaking third down conversions and, from that game and the Titans game, like they only gave up 16 points. Because remember, one of them was a defensive touchdown, so that doesn't count against the defense. They only gave up 16 points. So maybe they need to stop bending so much because the Giants might have a better chance of scoring in the red zone with the weapons that they have.
Exactly. And when I look at this Giants team, I actually caught that Panthers Giants game, and what I saw from them, I put it on this Giants defense to win games, and I don't see where they're getting any pressure. If you can't pressure Carson Wentz, force him to scramble out, make him use that leg that he's probably not completely healed, ready to go for football, but not 100%. He can pick you apart. And when he's not having to improvise, you're not getting much of a running game anyway. Those receivers get going. This team could find a rhythm. I got a feeling the Giants are going to be in trouble. They couldn't find a way against the Panthers, against Cam Newton. And I haven't been a fan of Cam Newton throughout his career. He's not the best passer in the world. His team, he needs a lot of help to make a lot of plays happen. If he's not running around with his legs and making plays on the ground. I'm taking the Eagles in this one to get off the schneid. If you cover up Odell, who else is making plays for you? I mean, Saquon Barkley, you can't run double reverse passes, and you can't run what Florida State couldn't do correctly in a game. You can't do it every game. So they're going to be waiting for that. Saquon Barkley, is he ready to take over a game? Probably not. Give me the Eagles in this one, but really close. By the way, the spread's only 3 points.
Yeah, I mean that's not surprising because the Eagles aren't playing well. I mean, even in the games that they won, they had to do some things late, like they're not getting any separation on any of these teams, really. The games that they win basically come down to them getting a defensive stop on the last possession of the game, either that or you lose. Tennessee, they've been doing it for a while. They did it in Atlanta, in the playoffs, did it to the Colts. Luck ran out against Tennessee. And then, Minnesota kind of jumped out on them early, and it was the Eagles trying to come back. They showed some flashes in the second half of that game. I think these are flashes offensively that had I not seen, I think I'd be all in on the Giants winning this game on Thursday. But I'm going to reluctantly take the Eagles as well. You know me. I'm one of those people that just swears that the Giants are such a talented team, but for some reason they can't get it together. But soon as I jump off the bandwagon like I'm doing this week, they're probably going to end up beating the Eagles. But
and it's
I'm
a
going to
short
pick the
week
Eagles.
for both teams. That's also going to factor into this.
So I'm gonna pick the Eagles on this one as well. All right, so our next game is the Chiefs, your squad, versus the Pats. The Pats is his squad. For anybody listening for the first time, not the Chiefs. The Patriots are Fred's squad. The Chiefs are going to see the Patriots. Now, this should be a very interesting matchup. What's your thoughts on it?
This one's going to be tough because my head says, we know what my heart says all the time, but my head says Pat Mahomes is going to eat the secondary apart because they're so afraid of getting beat deep. And both of these offenses I call both of these offenses death by 1,000 cuts. They don't have to beat you deep all the time. But just when you come up again to play the short game, they'll hit you 5 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. They'll run the ball consistently. And they do it a little bit different with different size guys. The Patriots with Gronk, the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill. But both of these teams are methodical in how they move the ball up and down the field. The Chiefs, their defense is going to be the problem. When Tom Brady saw this defense on film early in the week, I know he's just sitting there saying, I'm going to pick this team apart because this team is giving up points in bunches. Even the lowly Jags scored a few points at the end. And quite honestly, I've seen a little bit of every game that this Chiefs team has played in. Pat Mahomes has to score 35-plus to win games. That's just how it's going to be. The Patriots, on the other hand, all the pieces are coming together. That experimental period is over. On defense, they've kind of experienced some things where they've tried to put pieces in different places. They're moving DBs around. The linebackers are starting to stop the run, and they've been able to stop the run pretty well. But now that secondary is coming around a bit, they still are not committing 7 or 8 guys to the box. They're wanting to play a lot of too high safeties where you're going to see it. That's where a lot of the run game is coming from and all of the production is coming from. But slowly but surely, game after game, you see the adjustments. And I think what Bill Belichick is wanting to do is mold his team into a more balanced team where they're well coached. They're in position. They're not the most talented group. I've seen better from this Patriots group. But what I can tell you is they're going to be in position at all times. And I think the offense is going to carry this defense until you get to playoff time. But with the weapons that you have, Gronk, Edelman, Josh Gordon coming around, Cordero Patterson maybe being knocked down a rung, those running backs, Sony Michel looks like a good one. They can't get hurt anymore at running back because the depth is really hurting them now without Jeremy Hill and Rex Burkhead. But I'm taking the Patriots in this one. I don't go against Brady and Foxborough. It just doesn't happen often. But I expect this game to be like 24-28. Brady comes back at the end, he reminds young fella who the GOAT is.
I'm taking the Patriots as well. I think this is where the Chiefs get their first loss. And in my opinion, I just think, first of all, Belichick is going to approach this as closely to a playoff game as you possibly can in the first half of an NFL season. One being because last season, early in the season, this team kind of embarrassed the Patriots. Even though the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl, they didn't get to see this team again in the playoffs and get a little sweet revenge on their road to the Super Bowl. I think that sits in the back of their mind now. So I think it's, one of those playoff game plans for Bill Belichick where they're going to try their darndest to take what Kansas City does best out of the game and force them into being something else that might be, consistent enough to win over a 60-minute game. So I'm going to take the Patriots in this one as well, winning in Foxborough. All right. So the next one, we got Steelers versus the Bengals. This is another good. This is a 1:00 game. The intrigue in this game is because, plenty of people, I know I'm one of them, picked the Steelers to win this division. Sitting at 2-1, that's not out of the window. Yeah, I know you picked the Ravens. But sitting at 2-1, that's not out of the window. But Cincinnati is playing very well at 4-1. So if Pittsburgh, does want to represent in the playoffs as the division winner of the AFC North, this is where it starts. Already being some games behind them, you don't want to lose to them in the division and make it even worse on the tiebreaker. So this is going to be a pretty intense game, in my opinion. But again, I'm going to take the home team on this one. I'm going to take Cincinnati to go to 5-1 and leave Pittsburgh reeling a little bit and having to play some catch up to either miraculously come back to win this division, which we know it's possible when Cincinnati's who you're chasing, or, having to fight for a wild card spot. Either way, I still think Pittsburgh will win the playoffs. But this week, I say they go down to Cincinnati.
I like this Bengals offense. When I see Andy Dalton, I see I hate saying dumbing down the offense because that's a disrespect to him. He's not a bad quarterback. He just lacks some of the physical tools that some other guys like the Brady, Rodgers, Breeze type of guys have. But intellectually, he's one of the smarter quarterbacks. But Bill Lazor has really tailored this offense to him and to his strengths, the West Coast passing game, using A.J. Green, using John Ross. They were using Tyler Eifert. It just seems like he always gets hurt at the wrong time, and his injuries are always season-ending. We never get to see what Tyler Eifert really can be. The running game is a bit hampered with Joe Mixon not being out there and Gio Bernard having to be the guy. That's just not his role. He's more of a complimentary back. On the other side of things, for me, I think Big Ben he's having to carry this team. This defense isn't really what we thought it would be, which I didn't expect it to be much of anything. They don't get a lot of pressure. Teams throw all over them. It's going to be the Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger show, but the one thing I always know about these Steelers is when it comes to a game like this, when no one expects them to win, Big Ben somehow puts this team on his back every single time and makes plays. Give me the Steelers in this one. They're gonna remind the Bengals who runs this division and who's been in control for years upon years. Steelers win this one. Dev, are you there? I think we lost you.
I'm here. I don't know what that was. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back.
Uh-oh. I think the Steelers wanted to stop you from saying what you wanted to say.
I was about to say, who out there with the power got a little upset at something that we said? All right. That's a little bit of a scare. We didn't say anything about kneeling for the national anthem. What's that about? All right. So I don't know, man. Let's just move on to the next game because you got the Steelers, I got the Bengals. Let's go to the Ravens and the Titans. The Ravens are going to visit the Titans. Both teams currently sitting at 3-2. I can make this one quick. I know you're bigger on the Ravens than I am. That defense is playing well. One thing that you're always going to get in Baltimore, no matter what, is a tough defense, and they're looking really good this year. If Flacco can go out here and limit the mistakes, I think Baltimore will go in here and take this game. I don't really think. And Tennessee's sitting at 3-2. I don't really think Tennessee is as good as their record indicates. Not that it's a great record, but I think they come back down to earth a little bit more this week, and I got Baltimore in this one.
You know where I am. I picked this Baltimore team to win this division. I trust the defense. I actually like what I'm seeing on offense. They're getting back to playing Ravens football, which is a smash mouth style of football, while everybody else is going to the spread stuff. They're staying true to what they do. They're going to hit you in the mouth. They're going to play rough and tough. I like how Flacco.
What is going on here? Fred, you there? I don't know what's going on here. But somebody doesn't want us to put this show up.
The show must go on. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, I hear you now. All right, so let's just rapid fire these last two because somebody doesn't want us to finish this show. I got Baltimore. You got Baltimore. Last but not least, let's go to Chargers, who are visiting the Browns, who just got their second win of the season. Who do you think is going to take this one?
Well, we can end the season here. I mean, the Browns have already won the Super Bowl. I mean, they're a game and a half.
They won the Super Bowl twice.
Yeah, and just if I told you, what if this could be a very nice one of those ESPN 30 for 30s? What if I told you the Browns were a game and a half out of making the playoffs? Now, if that stands the rest of the way, yeah.
Better yet, Fred, what if I told you the Browns won 2 Super Bowls in the same season?
Exactly.
53 and 54.
This game is going to be, and I think throughout the season until they show me different, they're going to be in every game, and I said that at the beginning of the year. They're not going to be a terrible team. They're just going to be a pesky team in your side. They're going to, and they'll probably knock off a team or two they're not supposed to win against. And this Browns team with Baker Mayfield seems like a completely different team than last year with Kaiser at quarterback, and just things just didn't look good. And the defense is growing up in front of us. I think, unfortunately, if you want to win with this team, Hugh Jackson may not be the guy. But for now, Baker Mayfield is carrying this team, making big plays. It's just the only thing, can we get a better kicker here to finish games? Because I swear the kicker is getting paid on the side to miss kicks.
Even the game-winning kick looked like some trash.
Yeah, exactly. But believe it or not, I'm going to take the Browns in this one to scare. And I'm going off on the deep end here. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm drinking the Browns Kool-Aid. That just doesn't sound good. But
absolutely not going to take the Browns this week. I see the improvement, marked improvement. I think they're competitive. I think they'll be competitive with anybody in the league at this point. But I think inconsistency is what I see so far. Like, there really hasn't been enough weeks for me to really pinpoint that. But even in their, 1 week they score a ton of points. Then the next week, it's the defense leading them, and the offense isn't putting anything on the board. Mm-hmm. So it's like they have the talent. So when they can get, a more consistent run from the offense and the defense, then we'll see this very talented young Browns team take off. But this week, I'm taking the Chargers, and we're going to speed out of here because obviously the Illuminati or somebody doesn't want us to finish this episode. Check us out on Sunday because we will be watching all the games. Fred, quickly tell them how they can get in touch with you on Sundays if they want to talk some smack about these games.
You can catch me on Twitter, Fred Purdue CSB. You know where I'll be watching Patriots, Chiefs, watching some of these good games. The NFL's in full effect. Stop trying to get us
all right. And me, you can catch me outside. How about that? But no, you can catch me on Twitter at DevMacWR Sports. You can catch me on the War Room Sports Facebook page. You can also catch me on the GroupMe app, the War Room Sports Game Time group on the GroupMe app. Just load that GroupMe app to your phone, Android or iOS. Look for War Room Sports Game Time. We talk games during the games all the time. Basketball, football, everything, and anything that's going on, even some hip-hop. So look, this has been another episode of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. For my man Purdue, I'm McMillan. Like we always tell you guys, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance, and we'll see you chumps on top.
Going up to LaFell. Touchdown. The big screen. Sanchez over the middle. Touchdown. Play action. Cutler wide open. Sanzenbacher.
War Room Sports, www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.